Welcome to the Spawn Chunks, episode number 306 for Monday, July 15th, 2024. This is a podcast all about Minecraft, available across all major podcasting platforms, including now in video on YouTube, or at least returning to video when Johnny gets back from vacation. If you're enjoying the show, consider subscribing wherever you're listening to this. My name is Joel Duggan, and joining me this week, filling in for Johnny, is friend of the show, impulseSV. The last time Impulse was on the show was episode 208, on the air and having fun with impulseSV, almost 2 years ago on August 29th, 2022. Impulse is a full-time Minecraft content creator on the Hermitcraft server and a podcaster. Follow Impulse on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter at impulseSV, and watch the Imp and Skiz podcast on YouTube, or listen wherever you get your podcasts. Dude, thank you so much for filling in for Johnny. It's wonderful to have you back on the Spawn Chunks.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back, and I can't believe it. I mean, time absolutely flies. You said what number episode I was on, and it's been almost 2 years, and I remember being on it like it was yesterday. But I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember being on and just having a good time sitting down with you and Johnny and just talking about Minecraft. It's obviously one of my favorite things to talk about. It's one of my favorite things in life. So it makes it real easy to be on this show because it's a subject that is very familiar. So, and oh, by the way, this is episode like 300 and something. That's incredible.
Thank you.
You know, recently, Skiz and I, we celebrated our 100th episode of the impulseSV podcast now, and you guys have done 3 times that, so it's something you and Johnny should definitely be proud of. It's quite the feat, so I'm proud of you guys.
I really appreciate that, and congrats on hitting 100. That's a big milestone too.
Thank you.
I feel like with podcasts, there's the ones that don't make it to 7 episodes, and then there's the ones that don't make it to 100. And I feel like the ones that have made it to 100, they end up making it to 700. Like they just keep on going, right? Because they've made it part of their routine, or it's caught on, or it's just something that people enjoy doing. So congrats to you guys, because I think there's so many podcasts out there. To be in that small percentage that gets into the hundreds of episodes.
About 100 episodes, that's when you start to find your stride, I guess. Because
yeah,
there was a while there where like, I don't know if this is working, if it's not working. And then slowly but surely we kind of found what worked and what people enjoyed the most. And we're like, okay, we're going to do more of that. And we just keep going, and it's been great. So I heard you mention that you guys have started doing a video style of podcast. Not to jump subjects here or anything, but how has that been, if you wouldn't mind sharing? Because I can tell you, when I told Skiz I wanted to do the video podcast instead of just audio only, he was very nervous about it, and we kind of knew how hard it was, but not fully how hard of a difference that was going to be between audio only and then including video. So have you and Johnny kind of gone through that as well, that realization?
I can't really speak for Johnny, but I know that I've found it more difficult. And it's because I don't have a lot of experience on camera. I don't have a face cam when I stream, and Johnny does. So he's been used to being on camera for a while and engaging with an audience on Twitch when he streams 2-3 times a week. And for me, I don't have that. So I have that podcaster comfort of just like not having to worry about addressing the camera. And we do have a pretty tight script or show notes document on the Spawn Chunks. And when you're podcasting audio only, you can read. You don't necessarily have to memorize everything. I'm noticing that there's a couple of things now in our rundown that I'd like to memorize, like the intro, a little bit of the outro. It's a little different the last few weeks, of course, because I've had to read things that Johnny normally reads on the show. On the flip side, we have found some things have gotten easier, and that is being able to see one another on video while we're recording, which means that I feel we can anticipate when the other person is done talking. So we have less edit points later on. There's less of that podcaster tennis where you're like, what? You try to say something and you're tap dancing on the other person. And that, I think, has been good. Johnny has a lot of experience video editing. Obviously, he's a video content creator like you are on YouTube. So he actually can get through the video production quite quickly. And he does some really good tricks with having both of us up on screen or one of us up on screen. And so sometimes he's told me behind the scenes where I've screwed up, let's say, reading the news and I have to repeat a line. He can throw up like a full screen image of like the news article. And so when he makes the edit in the video, there's no little glitch, like there's no little cut. And so you
Yeah.
don't see that kind of stuff. So he's got some tricks up his sleeve that I think make the video production pretty smooth. I do feel self-conscious when I have to do a lot of like sight reading or things like that on video. I don't know why. I think it's maybe just I'm not used to it, perhaps. But yeah, it's been challenging. How did you guys find it? Like, was Giz able to warm up to it? Like, what were his reservations?
Yeah, the editing is definitely a heavy lift, because he does a lot of, like you said, those cuts, right? Where it's like
Hmm.
we have typically, I mean, depending on if we have a guest or not, we have three cameras going, and he'll make a cut between him, me, and then both of us, and he does the same kind of tricks, like you mentioned, like if there's something that, and not that we have a lot of cuts, but if there is something that needs cut, it's good to have a camera angle switch or pull something up on screen, a graphic or something to kind of hide the cut, but. That takes time. Obviously, he likes to add like a lot of, like if we're talking about a memory of that's something that happened in video, he'll go chase it down and grab that clip and throw it up on a little picture-in-picture window and stuff, so people have an extra visual. So he does go like an extra mile, but from a technology standpoint, I think that's where we struggled the most. Just like making sure that our cameras were good. We struggled with cameras not even recording for more than 30 minutes, so we had to plug them into computers and record through software instead. It took us a while to figure out the right camera models, even, and lighting and all that stuff. It just tons of stuff went into it, and then, like you said, you gotta worry about like kind of how you look on camera and all that extra stuff you don't think about when
Yeah.
you're just doing audio only. So yeah, it's been a big learning process, but I do think for us it was the right move. Us having our main platform, even starting off, was YouTube, right? Because we already had a following there, and so it was kind of a good thing to just go straight to video for us, and we're kind of past all those hurdles now to where it's a lot easier. I know exactly how the cameras need to be set. I know exactly how the lights need to be set, and it's kind of just like a quick setup and go, and we can be up and running. So, yeah, but it has been a learning process for sure. So I was very curious when I heard that you guys started doing video, if you had any of those learnings that we had early on, and how you felt about it. So thanks for sharing.
Oh, I'm still in the process of learning. Definitely the technical side. I have a separate camera for some of the Lego streams that I do. I've got a Sony A6100, but I have not taken the plunge of like moving that every week from the one table to doing the podcast and then back again. So I'm looking
Mm.
at buying a camera for myself for the Spawn Chunks, because right now I'm using the webcam in my iMac, and I don't even think it does 1080p. So next to Johnny on the video, I can see there's a different quality of image, and more so when I move. I mean, not that we move around a lot, it's a talking head podcast, but like, you gesture or you laugh or you kind of bob around a little bit. And I do find that the motion on my camera is not nearly as good as the motion on Johnny's. And so I'd like to bring that quality up to snuff. So maybe I'll be poking a DM your way, asking about tips on what cameras and how you set things up.
Sure.
Because I have all the streaming stuff that I've done. Like, I've been doing streaming for a while. Capturing video from computer is not a big deal, but the whole video component of podcasting is just not something that I've been.
It's like a whole different beast.
Yeah, I've been podcasting for 13 years almost. So like I've just never done video. And I think you're right. I think that if someone was to start a video podcast tomorrow, I'd say that's the right avenue. If you are serious about podcasting, you want to start something new now, I would say plan to do video from the start. It'll save you the transition later. A steep learning curve, but you'll be set up for success with clips from like places like Instagram Reels and TikTok to like being on YouTube. Like, you're going to be on the best kind of discovery platforms with video. Audio podcasts very heavily rely on other people, word of mouth, telling friends about it. It's a slower climb to get an audience. So I would definitely suggest video.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And actually, if you want to hear more behind the scenes from Impulse and I, you can listen to the rendered distance, which is the extended version of the podcast, and that's available at patreon.com/spawnchunks. We also do things like the monthly Minecraft Hangout that is tentatively planned right now for Saturday, July 27th. Johnny and I will be hanging out with our patrons in a special Discord chat looking at what they have been building in Minecraft. We also have a quarterly Hangout coming out, but with Pixelrus vacation being a little bit more extended than planned, that date is going to be determined by how he feels when he gets back and how much time we have to collect the data. But those are all things that are perks for our patrons over at patreon.com/thespawnchunks. We usually start off the Minecraft conversation with a quick login, and as per usual, the guest is invited to go first. So, Impulse, what have you been doing this week in Minecraft?
I think the better question is, what haven't I been doing? You know me, I like to stay busy, and that I have been. We'll start with the Minecraft stuff because I do other stuff other than Minecraft, as we just talked about the podcast and stuff. But let's start with Minecraft because I think that's what most people are here for. So Hermitcraft season 10's been in full swing now. We're hitting our stride. It's been 4 months or so, and I'm doing a lot. I have this bad habit of telling myself I'm going to keep things simple this season and not do so many projects at once. I'm just going to do this. Yeah, I got this cyberpunk city idea. I want to do that. I'm just going to focus on that. And I have been for the most part until recently. I kind of thought, you know what, I need a little break from this. It's starting to become not redundant, but you start to be in the same place for a long time, and you start to just kind of feel that itch to go out and do something different. Not burnout, but just wanting to change things up, just to keep things fresh. And I was going really strong on the cyberpunk city, and I'm turning it into this whole game. Created some lore behind it, which has been fun. I think adding lore to your builds and what you're doing in Minecraft can help bring a life to it, and then make people and make yourself more invested in what you're doing because there's a reason for it, right? So I started doing that with the Cyberpunk City, but the main thing was I wanted it to be this giant game that people can come in and play, kind of a la MCC, the Minecraft Championship. It's hopefully most people are familiar with that, but it's a competitive Minecraft thing, and there's different types of games within it, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a mix of different types of games. So I was working on that for months, and when I introduced the lore, there was this part of the lore that said, you know, all the citizens of the city needed to evacuate to a bunker. And I happened to be positioned down at the base of what we call Magic Mountain. And it's a mountain that, you know, a bunch of us are sharing, kind of like building around and now hopefully in. And I thought, you know, it'd be cool to attach myself to that mountain a little bit since I'm not attached currently. And that bunker would sit nicely in it. So then I started this bunker project, and I was excited about that because it started to kind of get into this. Okay, well, what am I going to do? I don't just want to make this room and that's it. Oh, what if I make this a big biodome and then like a biosphere type of bunker? And now I have this whole other big project all of a sudden out of nowhere that I didn't anticipate when the season started. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm doing it again. Now I got 2 big projects. And then along the way, I figured, well, I'm still a farmer at heart, you know what I mean? Like I'm still a redstoner and I still like doing Minecraft farming, and there was materials that I needed. So then I started building farming district kind of thing where I got a big old gunpowder farm and then added a sugarcane farm. So now here I am again with 3 massive projects for the season, and I'm just begging the hermits. This is me begging right now. Please, hermits, do not let this be a short season because I want to get all 3 of these done this time. So yeah, I find it good to have multiple projects, but also stressful. I'm sure you know what I mean. Like, at least with your world, we'll get into yours in a second, but at least with your world, you kind of control the length of it, right? And all that. You don't have like any kind of like time crunch that you're thinking about because maybe the hermits are thinking the season has kind of like ran its course at some point, and I don't know when that's going to be. But I always feel like there's a little bit of a time gate for me to get the things done that I want to get done, and that adds a little bit of pressure. But at the same time, I mean, pressure can be good, you know, to keep us motivated to move forward. So I have all that going on Hermitcraft. I'm currently bouncing back and forth. In fact, my next episode will be back in this game I'm making called Metro Mayhem, which is basically a race similar to Ace Race and MCC. You race through a metro station, and I have different themes planned. I haven't announced what the next theme is for the next leg of the race, but it's a super exciting one. It's one that brings me back to something I loved as a kid. So I'm excited to announce that in my next episode. But aside from Hermitcraft, I stream on Twitch multiple times a week, 3-4 times sometimes, and it's not always Hermitcraft. I like playing other games, especially with friends. I got a couple friend groups actually, and we like playing co-op games. Phasmophobia being one of our favorite, most popular ones on my second channel. So like to do Phasmophobia from time to time, usually once a week or so. And recently got back into Among Us with another group of friends. And Among Us was something that I used to play every Friday night with another crew back in the day until some people started getting kind of bored of the game. And we took a couple year hiatus. So fun to check that out again. And then basically any other silly co-op game that comes our way that we, somebody says, hey, this is deer game is stupid. Why don't you guys play that? You'd be fun. It'd be funny and whatever. We'll pick that kind of stuff up and just check it out. But yeah, so I stay pretty busy with those live streams. Stay pretty busy with all the Hermitcraft and making those episodes for YouTube and all the streams. But then we also have the podcast, as we just talked about, the Imp and Skiz podcast. We've been going over 100 weeks in a row every Friday releasing, and we've had a lot of fun. We bring on a lot of guests. We have a bunch of hermits have been on, friends of ours, not only Minecraft creators. We've brought on a couple friends of ours that are in the DIY space, Evan and Caitlin. That was a fun interview. So we like having people on that can kind of talk about what life is like as a content creator. I think it's a really unique career, and it's new for a lot of people, right? Like if I talk to my parents or even friends of mine, they don't understand it. It's hard for them to understand, what content creation is and how that's even a job. So it's kind of fun to have people on and help explain that and show the behind the scenes and how everything works. And that's what we do on the podcast, as well as we share. When it's just me and Skiz, we'll kind of share stories that we've had in our life and any kind of learnings that we could, maybe motivational stuff, things like that. We're kind of all over the place, and we keep it loose and just talk about whatever way the wind blows that day is kind of where we go. So it's been fun. It's been fun, but definitely been keeping me really busy.
And I think that's nice about the Imp and Skiz podcast too, because there's so many layers to content creation. I mean, like there's the fun, creative side of it, which is you splitting up your energy between the cyberpunk city, the bunker, and the farming district to kind of keep it fresh, so you don't get too, I don't want to say bored, but stale. You want to be excited to log in, and if you're not excited to log in to work on the cyberpunk city, if you have other couple of projects, then you say, oh well, maybe I'll just put my energy into the bunker today, or put my energy into the farming district if you're feeling technical that day over being more of a creative, decorative mood. You can focus on the cyberpunk city, and I think that's important too. And I've done that on the Citadel, of course, over the last 7 years. I feel like the content creation stuff on the podcast then kind of overlaps with all the entrepreneurship stuff that happens with being a content creator. Like there's more than just the creation of the content. There's also the business stuff. There's the social media you got to manage. There's the community that's often around what you do, that supports what you do, that you then have to manage and engage with and find time to do so, and all that. And I think that any other podcast, especially from folks as approachable as you and Skiz, is great for that community, because it just means that information is then out there. Because back when I first started content creation, I mean, it was web comics, and there was precious little information about how to do it, how to get it out there. I ended up listening to a podcast. It's called Webcomics Weekly, and that was really informative and important. And I thought, like, man, when I get to a point where I can actually talk about this stuff, I'm absolutely going to put some information out there. And Johnny has experienced it as well with his YouTube channel, where he focuses on tutorials. And there's always somebody new to Minecraft that's trying to figure out how the heck to do this or do this thing. And having a tutorial for it is essential. And I think, for people that are looking into how to become a content creator, specifically because there's so many Minecraft players that want to do that, having that overlap between you as a very experienced Minecraft content creator and then also doing the podcast, and Skiz, of course, as well, being a Minecraft content creator, I think that's a really valuable show, as well as entertaining and fun. And you guys have known each other forever, so it's a really relaxed and casual yet very informative experience.
That's one thing, with me and Skiz, like you said, we've known each other forever. But aside from that, it wasn't just the fact that we knew each other. It's we've known since we were teenagers that there was something special with him and I specifically together. It's like we kind of fill each other's, like a yin yang type of thing. You know what I mean? Like whatever one person's not so good at, the other one can be good at. And so just whenever we get together to work on a project, and we knew this since school, we would have projects in class where We knew that we were filling each other's gaps in those projects at the time, and that we would end up having like a very great output from that. And we said at the time that we were teenagers that we wanted to like work together forever, basically. And here we are, 25 years later or whatever it's been, and we're doing a podcast together and finding that synergy still in that world now. It's just been quite the ride.
Well, my ride this week has been focused on just a few things around the North Crossroads in West Hill. I'll have some screenshots in our show notes as well as in our live chat here for folks that want to take a look at some of the before and after. Essentially, I started off with just filling out the countryside. I wanted to change the view as you come into town, and I knew that the East Ridge needed a tree. So I took a stab at making a custom tree, and I was actually quite happy with this one. I don't do these often, and so when it comes out as well as this one did, I like to document and brag a little bit about it, because half the time I think it's luck. Like you try to do it, you try to make it look natural, and then it looks like a grid, and then you try to ungrid it, and then it looks like a mess, and then somewhere in between, it actually looks like a tree. And it really makes you think about how you see patterns in nature and how those patterns are seemingly random, but then they also have a purpose. And it's a really interesting exercise to build a tree out of blocks in Minecraft. It can be challenging and rewarding at the same time. And I kept up the theme. So this Northern Crossroads is something I've been working on for a couple of weeks. And I wanted to finish up the edges and make it look like it had been there for a while. So I put in some details around the crossroads between the curtain wall marsh and the road. Things like an older path that was too straight and kind of boring. I just removed the path entirely and put in an entire cut corner of dirt. So the kind of things where you might see like a wagon pulled off to the side of the road, or a shortcut that people might take over time, and that dirt has just been ground up. And so it's no longer grass. It's just like a bunch of cobble and dirt and coarse dirt and things. And so that's what's happening there. I even had a wagon that I added, and it's always fun to build these little things in Minecraft to kind of give the illusion of life, that there might have been someone that pulled up there, or maybe the wagon's got a broken wheel, or just something that kind of give yourself the imagination as to why it's just sitting there. And after that, I was moving on down the line, and this is where I didn't have time to finish, but I was working on an area near the marsh, and I decided that the marsh looks good, but the marsh has a very hard edge to it. So I thought, well, maybe there'll be a chance for water to run off the road and run off the high ground nearby. And I could make not like a full marsh, but maybe like a soppy wet ground or some sort of runoff situation where it looks like the marsh kind of starts and might come from a certain area. And so that's what I've started to do. I haven't quite figured out exactly how I'm going to do it. I think there's still a little bit too much brown happening. So we're going to go back and tweak that. But right now it's a combination of azalea bushes, mangrove roots, muddy mangrove roots, coarse dirt, and a bunch of waterlogged blocks like that, including some stairs here and there, to try and make it look like the water is kind of saturated the ground. Less than a river and a lake, but more than just plain grass. So it's been a challenge, and I do like coming up with new things like this to try and push myself in the game. And to your point earlier, I am trying to push and finish Westill because I can see the end in sight, and I am excited to go on and move to something else. I want to try to a sci-fi area, so it's not quite cyberpunk, but I want to get into like clean lines and white concrete and spacey stuff and things that glow.
Oh, now you're talking. That's my style. that is the style that I gravitate towards almost every season. It feels like it's a fun style to build in for sure.
So that's where I'm heading. That doesn't mean that the area of Westill is going to come to a close. There's still lots of opportunities to build, but what'll end up happening is that I personally will have then two areas on the server that are vastly different. So if I log in and I'm just done with the sci-fi stuff, I can always go build a farm. I can always go build a stone bridge somewhere. And if I'm working in Westill and I decide, I'm really kind of tired of brown and gray, because it's been 3 years of working in this town and I love it, but I'm also very happy when I get to play with something else. A server mate might ask me to come help them build a small redstone farm, and I'll make it as loud color-wise as possible. It's like, I hope you like pink and purple, because I need a break from the brown and the gray. And so that's been fun. I do try and vary it up as best I can, but that's what I've been up to. It's a pretty straightforward project this week. The roads are going to need some texture and things like that, so that's what folks can expect on stream with me. All of it is available on Joel Duggan VODs on YouTube, so if people want to go back and see the very first dirt block that was moved when I started Westill, they can go do that. It's all up there documented on YouTube, which is pretty fun.
Oh wow, I was going to ask you, do you, especially when you're talking about making a custom tree, are you doing that all live, or do you spend any time in creative trying to figure out how to do it before you go live and you're in front of an audience?
Nope, it's all live. Everything is,
Wow,
yeah, everything has been done live.
you are brave, sir.
Thank you. I do have a background as an artist, as like a digital painter and digital illustrator, so I'm pretty comfortable puzzling through things that are visual. I have in the past run through Redstone builds loosely. Not the whole thing, but I might build a segment or a module or something in creative just to make sure it's going to work. Because I do find doing Redstone on stream a little bit problematic. Like because then you start to get suggestions from the chat, and then the chat's a little bit behind. And I'm a
Yeah.
visual person, so I find that I'll watch maybe an impulseSV tutorial, maybe I'll watch an El Mango tutorial or something. And very often I have to take those giant efficient farms and dumb them down to something smaller that I can actually use, because I don't need 1600 gunpowder per minute or something. I'll do that maybe in creative, but most of the time for Westill, I honestly, dude, I don't play Minecraft unless I'm streaming. Like that's just, if I'm in the chair playing the game, I'm going to be sharing it.
Yeah, might as well share the experience for everybody.
There's a lot of trial and error sometimes.
And like you said, I don't even like to attempt Redstone on stream because there's so many different ways to do it, and everybody watching is, especially if they are Redstone experts, and I wouldn't even call myself an expert at Redstone. I feel like I'm more at this point more of a balanced Minecrafter. At least I'm trying to be.
Sure.
Maybe one of those jack of all trades, master of nothing, but it's the same as I was saying before, how I like to kind of bounce in between things to keep things fresh for me. I'm kind of the same way with what I do in Minecraft, and that's, jumping between adventuring and building and redstone and farming and all those different aspects of the game, which I love the game so much because you can do all these different things. That keeps it fresh for me even after playing for a decade.
And I think keeping it fresh is the name of the game. I think both of us, I'm sure, have heard from fans that are say like, "Hey, I don't know what to do in Minecraft. I'm bored," and my reaction is usually like, "You need to take a break from Minecraft." But also, I think the idea that you have with your cyberpunk city, your bunker in the mountain, and your farming project, like that is the antidote to being bored in Minecraft. Is like there's always something to do, because like you start these projects, realize you don't have half the resources that you need, and that means that you have to build farms for the resources that you need, and all of a sudden you've got weeks of cool stuff to do in the game. It's just like this knock-on effect. Like once you give yourself that freedom to kind of like let Minecraft take you a bit, like have a plan, but then also realize that I can go down some of these rabbit holes, and it just creates more gameplay and for you more content. And I think that that's a great way to lean into the game.
Yeah, one word that you said while you're kind of giving your summary of what you've been up to was why, and this is something that I've been reflecting more on recently as I play. Over the first however many years of my Minecraft career, I didn't really think of the why as I was building. Why is this here? Now I kind of put that at the forefront of my mind, and like you said, okay, there's a wagon here. Okay, let's do a wheel. Why is that there? Okay, the wagon lost its wheel. You know what I mean? Like, why is this wagon here? Oh, it's delivering goods into the West Hill or whatever, right? So you start to like have this why, and I'm kind of doing that with some lore behind my builds as well. I think that if you start to look at or think about the why as you're playing, it will lead you to be more the storytelling and lead to more ideas, basically, and give you a little bit more of a feeling behind what you're doing, other than I'm just going to place these blocks because it looks cool. So that's been my like new lesson, I guess, that I've learned playing Minecraft, is to really put why at the forefront of your mind as you're coming up with whatever you want to do inside the game.
I agree. I think that's a great way to approach it. Fwip and I, on last week's show, were talking about storytelling in Minecraft and the narrative that he writes for his content and how it informs him and informs how he's going to build. And for me, I find that I don't really have a narrative for West so much as that I want to have some logic. I want to, why is that house there? The why that you're talking about. What kind of house is it? Is it a fisherman's house? Is it a farmhouse? Like, what is there a reason why it's right on the river versus not? And I
Hmm.
think that you don't have, even if people listening are not the best storytellers, like they don't fancy themselves a writer or a creative in that way, you can still look at like the physical reasons why. Think about the marsh that I was talking about. Like, well, it exists because it's a low ground and rain would pool and maybe the ground is soft, but where does other water come from? Does it run off the road? Where does the marsh go? I don't have any screenshots this week, but the marsh drains into a nearby river. And that's just like gravity is the why, right? I mean, gravity in
Hmm.
Minecraft works a little bit funny, but you can create your own science reasons why, nature reason why, overgrown bushes, vines crawling up walls. Like you can create your own why. The why can be as simple as like, this is a 2,000-year-old building, or this is a brand new building that's just been plunked down. At which point, like you can start decorating with construction material around. Maybe there's planks laying around that haven't been placed yet. Have a portion of the house that's half finished. Like all of those things really help communicate what it is. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a big story as to who lives there, but just sometimes the physical why is as important as the narrative.
Hmm.
Moving into the news this week, Minecraft Bedrock Edition 1.21.2 was released on July 9th. A new hotfix is now available to address some of the top issues that have been encountered since 1.21. These fixes have been applied to ominous trial spawners. Mobs spawned by ominous trial spawners now drop items they picked up. The ominous vault, rare loot, now has 80% chance of dropping instead of 20% chance, and fix the issue with trial spawners not ejecting loot in older worlds. We also have the Minecraft Bedrock Edition beta and preview 1.21.20.22 that was released on July 10th. There are a number of features and bug fixes to note here. Under accessibility, fixed an issue where screen narration would not describe how to accept the game invitation on Android and iOS. Text to speech for UI now reads the how to play screens by hovering over, tapping on, or navigating to the respective headers and paragraphs. For blocks, trapdoors, and fence gates no longer push players or mobs when activated by Redstone. The rooted dirt block now has unique sounds to better match the Java edition. The anvil is now split into unique instances: anvil, chipped underscore anvil, damaged underscore anvil, and depreciated underscore anvil. Smooth quartz has its destroy time adjusted to match Java edition, and pillar quartz block has been renamed to quartz pillar. Under gameplay, mounts and vehicles are no longer given a slight velocity during a dismount. Legacy worlds no longer have chunks at the edge of the world that don't render. Bogged no longer levitate when riding a boat, raft, or minecart. Rare loot now has an 80% chance of dropping from ominous vaults. For the full list of feature changes and bug fixes in the Bedrock beta and preview, visit the feedback.minecraft.net article linked in our show notes at thespawnchunks.com. Lastly, The Art of Minecraft is a new video on the Minecraft YouTube channel. Quote, Minecraft has received a whole collection of new paintings, enough to fill an entire art gallery, or at least your bathroom. In this video, we paint a picture of what goes into making Minecraft paintings and meet the artists behind the brushes. There's also a link in the YouTube video description to the article Painting the Overworld on Minecraft.net, which is from April of this year, which goes into more detail about the art and artist Christopher Zetterstrand. So I don't know about you, Impulse, but I don't really spend a lot of time in Bedrock Edition. However, it's nice that the hot fixes are out there because those Bedrock versions are pushed out to a lot of platforms, like say Xbox, for example, whereas you and I would have to manually switch from one version of Java to another, or even the server that we're on would have to do that for us to then have to do it on our own. So it's nice
Hmm.
that those bugs are squashed. Also good to see a lot of parity changes coming in the beta and preview for people that want to test that out. Just make sure that you're backing up your worlds before you do anything in the beta and preview. They often can be a little unstable. That warning is also in the article as well. But I was curious, do you spend much time in Bedrock Edition? I know that you spend some time outside of Minecraft and other games, as you mentioned, but have you ever delved into the Bedrock Edition much?
Not a lot. I have just gone in a few times just to kind of see what's different about it, and I've tested a few Redstone things just to see how different Redstone works. But I don't spend a lot of time in Bedrock, mainly because, like you said, I spend most of my time on Hermitcraft. It's Java Edition. It's what I've been playing my entire career, basically. And just Bedrock Edition just feels a little different. It just the player movement and stuff just feels a little different, a little awkward to me. But I have been in. We recently converted our Hermitcraft Season 9 world to Bedrock so that it was available via Marketplace for anybody that wants it for free. So you can, if you're a Bedrock player, you can go grab Season 9 Hermitcraft. Hopefully you have a device that can handle it, because we're not known to be the most lag efficient Minecrafters, but if your device can handle it, then you can check out the world in Bedrock. And so when we did that, I obviously I went in to kind of see how that looked and felt in Bedrock. So I played around a little bit there. Played a couple of the maps. I think the marketplace has some pretty fun maps that like Tango and I one time just for fun, and we even did a video on it. We played one of the maps from Marketplace, and I think we were checking out. It was when like NVIDIA RTX was just coming out, and we wanted to see how that looked, you know, and so we played that. We made a video on it. I think it was a sponsored video even. So just a little bit of time in Bedrock, but like I said, you know, because my bread and butter is Java, Bedrock is not really been something that I've had super interest in. You know, if we ever do, you never know what's going to happen. And I still find it kind of crazy that they have to work on both simultaneously and keep them in parity with each other. You know, it's nice that they're really trying to keep parity, because certain things do irritate me, like when I hear Bedrock players can like push lecterns with a piston and can put leads on boats, which Hermitcraft still hasn't updated, but pretty soon I'm going to be able to put leads on boats, so that's pretty cool. There's not been a ton of reason for me to really check out Bedrock or play much in Bedrock, but other than just, you know, curiosity sakes, I guess. So no, I haven't spent too much time in it.
Last week, Flip and I took a minute at the end of the show to talk about the paintings and some of the new decorative things that are in Tricky Trials. Obviously, where you guys haven't updated, you haven't had any hands-on with them. But as far as your thoughts on new paintings, I know that you've been using paintings a lot in the Cyberpunk build that you have going on. Look, what are your thoughts on the new paintings? Have you looked at them? Have you seen much of the new paintings coming in for 1.21?
Yeah. I looked at them as soon as I heard they're coming out. I looked at them immediately to see if there was any that were going to fit in the cyberpunk vibe. And there's a few. There's a couple on there. I really do like how they went back, right? They got the original artist that did the original paintings in Minecraft. So they went and got him, and I think he did 15 of the 20 that are added to the game now. And I really like I like what he's done, because they're very abstract, and you can kind of like, if you haven't seen the full painting before it was like pixelated, you kind of might be able to form your own opinion of what it is, you know? And that's kind of cool. I like that. I like that idea that you can kind of stand back and like imagine what you will of it. Whereas the other 5 paintings that were added, I think by an employee of Mojang, I think like a art director, Sarah maybe was her name. I'm so bad with names. The 5 that she did are kind of more obvious, and I think those are pretty cool too. They're kind of iconic to the game, like the 2 little villagers, like the farmer villagers, you know, I think is a pretty cute painting. And then the other one was like the thumbnail. So anytime we created a new world, it had like that default thumbnail on your world save, and it was just a picture of like of a mountain and the ocean in front of it. And that was turned into a painting. And I really like that idea too, because it's nostalgic for me, you know, and I'm sure a lot of other Minecraft players, because that's what we saw every time we launched the game. And now you can change that, and it's different. But I think that's kind of cool that they've added that. And for me, any way that I can decorate my world differently with new things is always welcome. Aside from, and we can get into an inventory discussion later, but it does in itself also bring some mechanical issues, I guess. So like, okay, 20 new paintings, right? I remember trying to get the perfect painting. Like I would want this specific painting on the wall, and you can do the trick where you place things on the wall to kind of like force the size. And that's good that you can at least force the size of the painting you want. But like the fact that you have to like cycle through, okay, not that one. Okay, break that. Put another one up. Nope, not that one. And you kind of have to get lucky. Now there's 20 more potentially that you got to flip through to get the one you want. So I do kind of wish that at the same time they would think about that and like add more mechanics in the game that allow you to skip that process because that's not a fun process. Like that's just a time sink. So at the same time, if they had like maybe brought in a way to specify exactly which painting you want, now that there's, I don't know, aside from the new 20, do you know how many there were before that and how many total we have now by chance?
I'm trying to look it up quickly. I want to say, I think there's 32 in total.
Okay.
I feel like it was 8 before.
Probably somewhere around there. Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot to flip through, right? Like if you're looking for a specific painting.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they came up with a way that you can like specify which painting you want, I think that would be a good idea. And like I said, I do like the fact that there's more decorations in the game. Like when it comes to something like the Cyberpunk city, you kind of want that. You want advertisements everywhere, and so paintings have been my way of like having that in the metro, like inside the train. I have them up on it's just all over on the walls. So now I have more choices, which is great, and I can like match the colors. Like there was a couple of the paintings I saw that I was like, yes, okay, that color is going to be perfect for this specific spot on the train. And so I was excited about that, and I think I'll definitely be using them. I think it's a good thing to add, but at the same time, it's like, okay, as we add more things to the game, we also need to think about how easy will it be for players to manage those new things, without getting into a big inventory discussion. I mean, think about how many blocks have been added in the last decade, yet the inventory system has only gone one, major upgrade, and that's shulker boxes. So, that's just something. We'll see. We'll see. I always have my hopes that I'm sure they're aware of this, right? They've heard the community speak about this. They've heard many hermits talk about it as well. That I hope that's, on the forefront of their mind. But at the same time, because they're balancing this parity with Bedrock and having to manage a version of the game that is not only on a PC, but a console and even like a tablet, and they all have to kind of function. I mean, look what happened with bundles. It made it very difficult for them to implement bundles because of that. So I can kind of understand why it's difficult, but at the same time, I still want it. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And there's 46 paintings total.
46.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Moving into chunk mail. If you'd like to email the show, the address is spawnchunkmail@gmail.com. Please keep your emails short and to the point, as it helps us include them in the show more easily. Email this week comes in from Zing, TNT Drop Revolution. Hello, Pix, Joel, and Impulse. With the release of Minecraft 1.21, Bedrock Edition received the long-awaited 100% TNT drop rate, making TNT-based farms viable at last. When Java Edition got this change, it felt like there was a revolution of new farms, but I haven't seen the same motion on Bedrock. The Crafter 2 has not inspired the revolution that I expected it would. How do you think the 100% TNT drop rate has impacted the game? Do you think the Crafter will see the same love? Looking forward to this look back at TNT changes. Zing fell asleep working through the Redstone puzzle, happy to play the long game. So I thought we could answer Zing's TNT question here, and the stuff about the Crafter we can maybe tie into our main discussion. I know that I built a TNT-based concrete maker in Southport, my modern city, on the Citadel, after they made the TNT changes, because it just made sense to be able to get a lot of the concrete that way. I haven't built many TNT-based farms on the Citadel because we don't do TNT duping on the server. So while we have a creeper farm and plenty of gunpowder, sand for the TNT is still manually collected. It's still worth it for the concrete maker, but it's a time investment nonetheless. Now, I'm pretty sure that you guys have TNT duping on Hermitcraft, right, Impulse?
Yeah, we're allowed to, and some hermits have subscribed to using TNT duping, and some still are holding back on it. I'm kind of weird in that space. Like, I would rather not. I don't know why. I still just feel a little bit icky about it. I've had projects in the past where I couldn't be bothered and I went ahead and duped. But I try not to, and that does lead to being very careful with how you use TNT. So one thought that comes to mind, and this 100% drop rate on blocks must have been in Java for a while, because in season 7, Tango and I made a TNT exploding concrete maker, and I remember that him and I spent a long time in creative designing this thing, because we wanted each TNT that went off to produce the maximum number of blocks that we could. So we designed the machine to kind of like form the blocks that were about to be exploded in like a perfect orientation to get the most per TNT blast, because we weren't duping. And TNT is kind of expensive when you think about all the digging of sand that you have to do, because that's another thing we don't do is we don't duplicate sand. That's actually something we don't do as hermits, unless Doc gets carried away. But so we try to be cognizant of how we use TNT, and I think that's actually, it's been kind of cool because it forces you to think about it a little bit more. You know, especially with something like a concrete maker. Like I said, we had to really think about getting those blocks in the perfect place so we can explode the most of them that we possibly could.
Why I don't dupe on the Citadel either. We go a little bit farther in that extreme, is that we also don't go on top of the bedrock ceiling in the nether. So we don't break bedrock. Well, I shouldn't say that. We don't break nether bedrock. I think there's plans to do some changes in the end where we might remove the bedrock around the portals and decorate them or do something cool. But for challenge, you know, it's the same thing. You know, when I built my donut gold farm, I had to find a lava lake big enough that, you know, slabbing the area and creating enough spawn rates for this farm to be effective meant a lot more work, but it also meant you had to be more selective and plan a little bit better than just going up above the nether roof and flying up 200 blocks and putting it up in the sky, right? And I like you, enjoy the challenge of designing a redstone contraption, or like you said, a TNT based farm, for whether it be trees or concrete. I do like the look and feel of like the piston feed tapes, as the redstone folks call them. I just think they look neat. It has a conveyor belt vibe to them. You don't really have a conveyor belt in Minecraft, so to speak. There's water flumes, but that's about it. And I just like that really technical aspect of like creating like a box of TNT, or not TNT, that would be very explosive. A box of concrete that you then explode with TNT. And I remember, I think I think I remember you and Tango building that, and that might be the design that I sort of stole for the Citadel, because it's in one of my buildings. Like I've got these giant apartment buildings in the main modern city, and there's just too many apartments to like actually decorate. So there's a floor where several of the apartments are kind of like facades, and then inside this level of 4 apartments is like the actual concrete maker and the drop collection area and the chests and all that stuff. So it's I also wanted to make sure that if I was going to drop TNT inside of my decorative building, that I was not going to blow up anything else by accident.
Oh, who would do that? Who would blow anything up by accident, unless it was a prank on my viewers? I don't know if you caught a couple episodes ago. Yeah, that was like when you said TNT cube. That's exactly what came to mind. I was like, oh yeah, I just recently did a whole TNT cube, but it was World Edit that placed it, not not me actually doing it in game. No way. But we did use the auto crafter to make something cool. You know, after I'd kind of faked the blowing up of Magic Mountain, I decided, well, I better actually do it, you know, to kind of to pay back that prank. And I thought, you know what, a good way to do it would be to drop TNT minecarts, because you know you can make a TNT drop machine, but regular TNT, once it's ignited, is only going to go so far before it blows up, and next thing you know, you got to move it down. And because I'm not doing any duping, that's kind of a process. So I was able to figure out how to use the auto crafter to make TNT minecarts, which will just fall until it hits something, right? And with that, you know, I was able to put a really big hole in the center of the mountain. We want to turn the mountain into a volcano, if you hadn't heard that. So that means we had to hollow out the center of it. And TNT minecarts never fun to craft, right? Like you can, the minecarts themselves don't stack, so you could only really make, like, you know, if you cleared your inventory, 27 in your full inventory, and then you got to empty it, and it's just a pain. So was able to leverage the auto crafter actually to craft TNT minecarts, and it made the job quite simple. So I think you know, TNT. I want to go back to the initial question. I mean, as far as not seeing some of this stuff in Bedrock, I mean, with Bedrock, this is all fairly new, right? Like when did Bedrock get its 1.21 update? It's just been a couple weeks now, right?
I think Java and Bedrock updated the same day. It was a full
Yeah.
release. So they've only had this 100% drop rate for TNT for a little over a month.
Yeah, yeah, we've had it for years in Java, so you kind of take for granted when you've had it
Yeah.
for so long. And then with the auto crafter, you know, like on Hermitcraft, we introduced it via data pack early, so I'm kind of already like forgetting how convenient this stuff is. And so maybe that's just maybe it's just a matter of it's new and it's going to take some time for people to find these kind of uses, but I also think that the Bedrock community now can kind of look back at what the Java community has done, having their hands on some of this stuff early, and I'm sure all that will come in useful for them as well, hopefully.
Especially where you said that they can build more and do things with pistons that you can't do on Java. And now that you are able to make TNT based farms on Bedrock that are more viable, you also have the ability to make different kinds of redstone contraptions to trigger those, to control those, to do whatever you need to make those the most efficient, where Java players would have to come up with something else, like maybe a lectern or a chest would be something that you'd want to move around in Java, but you can't. Whereas in Bedrock,
Hmm.
if you can do that, then you might be able to take advantage of those differences now that you have some parity with the TNT drop rate. Well, speaking of the crafter, since we have Impulse on the show, and because, sir, you are a player with a lot of Redstone experience, and having more time with the crafter in regular play, thanks to that data pack you mentioned on the Hermitcraft server, I thought it would be a really good opportunity to get some feedback on the crafter from someone who's had the opportunity to incorporate it into day-to-day Minecraft play, into projects kind of big and small. So when you've been using the crafter, especially early on, if you can kind of remember back to when you first started using it on Hermitcraft, what do you think are its most direct and practical uses for folks that are new to it, as they might be either in Bedrock or they maybe only just recently updated their Java version and have access to the crafter now?
The first thing I did, I remember, I was excited about this, was bamboo farms are easy. If you've ever made one, you know what I'm talking about. They're pretty easy, even if you aren't an experienced redstoner. But because they're so easy, they can produce quite a lot of bamboo. And early game, you're not already at like shulker box storage or anything like that. So what's your other option? Set up a bunch of chests and have a gigantic chest array to store all that bamboo in. Is not really the most like feasible thing either, especially when you're talking hoppers and iron and stuff needed. Early game, it's not easy to get all that set up. But with the auto crafter, you can turn the bamboo into blocks of bamboo, and so your first thing is you're saving storage. Basically, you're compacting blocks. And I don't play a lot of like modded, but one thing I did like in modded was that you could compact blocks. So if I don't know if you've ever played modded, Joel, but there's like you could compact like cobblestone basically. So you could take you could go like a 9 by 9 of cobblestone. You have compacted cobblestone, and it's just a way of saving space, I guess, and then you can break it back down. So it's similar to that now, where you can just have this auto crafter compacting things for you. And that was the first thing I did was I compacted bamboo, and then the next thing I did, bone meal is real important in the game. I think it's one of the most useful items early game to have, in bone meal as well. And, if you have a bone meal farm, you can have that getting compacted into bone blocks automatically. The redstone for that is a little bit more difficult because you're kind of having to use like a comparator to sense when the auto crafter is full. All 9 spots get filled in with that block you want to compact, and then have a signal come off of that. But it's not like super complex redstone. Like you can look it up and get a screenshot on Google and mimic it pretty easily. It just takes a comparator, a repeater, and maybe a torch, a redstone torch, and that's it. You can get the job done. So I found that very, very useful early game when storage space was something that I was trying to be considerate of. That was my very first application of it. But since then, I've gone much further with it, and some of it was pretty redstone heavy, and really did take some thinking on how the mechanics of it were going to work to combine multiple different types of the recipe. Like when you have recipes that are complex, right? You have, 2 or 3 different ingredients that go into it. The redstone can get a little bit challenging behind using that, and I could see why like non-redstoners might be a little bit nervous. But also, there's a lot of applications where you don't have to really know redstone at all to make the auto crafter handy for you. And I think that's probably one of the misconceptions right now about the auto crafter is thinking, oh, I have to be a redstoner in order to use this. I mean, I could go as far as saying I've used the auto crafter as decoration blocks as well, but there are very easy ways to make the auto crafter useful for you. One thing that comes to mind is dispensers. Dispensers are terrible to make.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Like you again, it's the unstackables, right? Like bows. You got to make bows to make the dispenser. Where you can have 2 auto crafters. You can have one making the bows and then shooting it into the other auto crafter that is making taking that bow and putting it in the middle of your dispenser recipe and then shooting out dispensers. You don't need a lot of redstone for that. Literally, you could just put a button, one button on it, and basically populate one auto crafter with your string and your sticks. Have that pointing into another auto crafter with your cobblestone and redstone, and leave that center open for the bow. And then you just press the button. And you put a button on that first auto crafter and it will activate both. And you just keep pressing that. And next thing you know, dispensers are popping out. Or if you want to get a little more fancy, you can put observers facing into each other to make a bit of a clock that basically presses the button for you, but much faster. But, it really doesn't take a huge amount of skill or knowledge about redstone to make auto crafters useful. I mean, going back to compacting, my bartering farm, it has iron nuggets getting produced. I haven't done this yet, but if I just used auto crafters, I could go from nuggets to ingots into blocks, and I would probably never fill up the 6 or 7 double chests with the blocks that are produced from that thing if I go that route. It just really saves that space. So I think auto crafters have been real fun addition to the game, whether you're a redstoner or not. And even if you're a builder, I've found some good ways to implement it in builds too. So that was one of the most exciting parts about the update for me, for sure.
My brain goes the same way when I think about the first thing that I want to use them for is that compacting blocks. And for projects that are either in a distraction from West Hill or projects that are a nice break between West Hill and whatever the next thing is that I do, going around to some of our original server farms, because the server's been around for 7 years. It's one of those things where the iron farm is really old. I mean, it's currently broken, but when we do fix it, if we wanted it to have a higher output, if someone wanted to make changes to it, we don't have to necessarily expand the storage. We just have to add crafters in there to then compact everything down and do it automatically. And I think that that's one of the strengths, as you mentioned in early game, because like struggling to have enough wood for chests, I remember, is very hard in early game sometimes. And so when you're trying to store a lot of things, specifically stuff like bamboo and bone meal that you mentioned, because it's a 9x savings. Like you go from having 9 stacks of bone meal to 1 stack of bone blocks. And you can transport those so much easier. If you're working on early farms and you're doing some manual things with bone meal, 1 stack of bone blocks is going to last you a long time. If you're using it to like bone meal grass and do decorations and grow some things here and there, like you're set for a long time if you've got 1 stack. And so having that ability, I think, is really, really useful. One of the things that I have been thinking about, and unfortunately I don't have a lot of hands-on with the crafter as of yet, is the crafter's ability to, as you mentioned, be more complicated with either making unstackable items or crafting things that require crafters to be triggered in order, or even more niche applications where maybe something I haven't thought of, using the crafter as less of a actual crafting block and more of a programming node where like it has those 9 spots that you can toggle on and off and then get a redstone output from it. Whereas you can get the same thing from a lectern with a book on it. And previously I've had to use containers in my other redstone farms. I've got some vegetable farms on the server where the chests that are collecting things from that farm will fill up to 1 item shy of a full inventory, and then the rest of the time they'll shoot it out into a water stream to be taken to like some bulk storage down the way. And in order to do that, I had to have a comparator comparing the almost full chest to something else that was almost full. So I had to do all this
Mhm.
crazy math to figure out like how, like, do I just use a dropper? Like what container do I put next to this? That's going to be the easiest thing to get to 99%. And now I feel like you could probably use a crafter in that situation to just read and compare the output. You might not get all the way up to just one item left, but you'll get to a point where like maybe it's your full stack of 26 plus like 35 or 46 or whatever it happens to be. The point is just to have like nearly a full inventory at that space and then have the rest kick on to a bulk storage. So when you're thinking about the crafter, have you found anything niche that you've used it for that you found was unique to the situation?
I found that, and I make fun of this because I'm going to lose my Redstoner card. I actually found that it makes a good decoration block. I don't know if you've seen it, but I have it to where, so when you power Auto Crafter, it has like just these two red dots in two corners of like the front top two corners, and they will glow. You know, like when they're powered, the red is glowing now to indicate that it's received power. And I did like a cycle of a signal through observers to kind of like, I put four of the crafters together so that their corners matched up, and then in the middle they're each getting powered in a circular pattern to where like just the 4 pixels that meet in the center of these 4 auto crafters are going in a circle, to make a little visual stimulating thing in my cyberpunk city. That one I didn't see coming when auto crafters came out. But aside from that, I mean, what you brought up is very, very cool to think of those ideas that you can toggle those inventory spots, right? So depending on how many you toggle, the amount that the container can hold changes, and then based off of that, you can fill it with a certain amount of items. Today, I mean, we do a lot of weird things, right? Like you said, the lecterns, flip to different pages to get a signal from that. We've done composters where you sit there and you're like, okay, I need to fill this thing almost all the way, but not all the way in order to get this signal to compare. And so that really does open the door to more possibilities as far as like getting the perfect signal range out of an auto crafter. It's not something I've tried yet, but now that you mentioned it, that's very intriguing on how that could become useful. And maybe as we talk about it, more people will go off and play around in their own Redstone contraptions and find uses out of that. I think that could be something that we could potentially see in Redstone devices moving forward is a more norm than the lecterns and the composters. So I'd be interested to kind of play around with that myself, because I really hadn't thought of that. You get stuck in your ways, right? Like when something new comes out, it's like, oh yeah, no, I just put a composter here, fill it to this amount, and then now I know now I know when the auto crafter has more items than this, then it's full and it can spit it out. And so we still using kind of that old method where, potentially could have replaced that composter with an auto crafter and got rid of all the spots but one, and then filled it with 63 items or something. And it would have been easier to use. Although I would say the recipe for auto crafters was a little bit more intense than I expected it to be when I first got my hands on it. With it being a few iron, you got to supply a dropper, a crafting table. It was almost like a double step procedure to make it, since you got to make the droppers first. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make an auto crafter to make auto crafters. You know what I mean? Just based off of that recipe, that's like the first thing is like, okay, I'm gonna have it make itself, because this recipe is a couple step process. So now anytime I think of crafting in a way that's like, you got to make this to make that, auto crafting is the first thing that comes to my head.
We made that joke when it was first announced. I don't remember what
Did you
episode.
really?
It was definitely a snapshot where it came to be available for snapshot testing, and like the conversation that we went straight to was like crafting crafters. It was just really, really meta. And thankfully, it's not a dispenser; it's just a dropper, because otherwise it would be very, very complicated. And it
Yeah.
reminds me of another game that I play called Satisfactory. I'm not sure if you've had much experience with that game at all, but it's a factory game where you build an item and that combines with another item, and then down the line that combines with another item. So like your tree of items kind of back fills to like you need hundreds of things to make like this one component for the game progression. And in a way, the crafter in Minecraft reminds me of that. And so I really like the idea of auto crafting things, even if I don't have to, even if it's faster to craft or compress blocks in the inventory. I just like the idea of things happening in the background. But what I had not thought of though, I've definitely looked at it as a decorative block because I'm a builder by nature. And I know it's got different sides. It's got the animation on the front with like the little door that opens that kind of looks like a mouth. And then I had not thought about the redstone lights though. And the fact that it lights up regardless of whether it's crafted anything, just because it's received that signal, and that you use just the corner to
Yeah.
create some indicator, like the kind of techno panels that you just don't have natively in Minecraft. Like you kind of have to suspend your disbelief and pick something, a block in Minecraft that sort of looks like what you want, or do like custom map art or a banner or something. But the fact that the crafter can actually be used for that is brilliant. I love the fact that you made like a little, it reminds me of the blinking lights that you would see in the DeLorean and Back to the Future, having no
Yeah.
idea what they do, but it just looks cool because things are cycling and things are lighting up and turning off and switches and all that kind of stuff is really, really fun.
Knight Rider. Remember the front of the
Totally.
car and it'd go back and forth. We're old, but
Yeah.
uh, that kind of stuff. I think lag efficient, lag friendly, maybe not super, but there's not enough motion in Minecraft. You know what I mean? Like
Agreed.
we need more motion, we need more life, and something like that. Like you said, flashing lights and things like that. Like that gives a little bit of motion as you're walking through, and you kind of catch something in the corner of your eye, and it's like you look over and you just see this little thing just spinning in a circle, basically, and it's just 4 pixels, but it adds that motion that you can. Most people would walk by and maybe not even see it, but when you know it's there, it's just a cool little added effect. And that just having that mechanic on the crafter gave us that, in a very small way. So I would love to see more of that stuff. Not that we're in a conversation about what we'd like to see added to Minecraft, but I would love to see more of that kind of stuff added to the game, to where we can create more motion in our builds, because otherwise they just kind of sit there like a painting.
I try to add motion to West Hill wherever I can, whether it's a crane that's pulling a crate like halfway up. It's neither at the top or at the bottom. It's just kind of midway, kind of gives the impression of motion. I add little water and waterfalls wherever I can because there is that animation in the water texture that's nice. I find that the addition of seagrass and kelp in the rivers and stuff around West Hill really help as well, to have like a little bit of a flow, as they sway
Hmm.
in the water with their animations. I don't know if there's much more that I have that's actually, there's nothing else that actually moves, but certainly I would love them to add things like horizontal banners to have like a flag that you could put on the top of your castles and towers and things like that. I've often mentioned that on the show. I feel like the crafter, for me, the thing that I think about like going down the line and what it inspires is almost a bit more of in-game continuity because of the amazing way that you can place the crafter. You can have it face whichever way you want, which to me is almost as powerful as what it does.
Yeah.
And we have all these other profession blocks in the game that we can't use as decorations all the time. We can sometimes. But a really good example is the cartography table. It has this beautiful vertical dark oak side to it with no other things on it, but I can't place it any direction I want. I have to be building something where the face of that thing is facing the right direction. I think it's east. And you have to build around that if you really want to use it. So it's not the easiest thing to utilize in that way. I think that in the future, hopefully, new blocks like the crafter, inventory-based blocks, or function-based blocks will be placed in this kind of way where you can orient them whichever way you want. I hope that they would go back and maybe say, hey, by the way, we've learned our lesson from the crafter. We're going to apply the way that it's placed to a lot of the other profession or menu blocks or interactive blocks in the game. I mean, how great would it be to be able to put composters at angles? You'd have this
Hmm.
block that when it's empty is hollow and looks like the top of a cannon or the end of a little burrow. Like if you wanted to have like a little rabbit hole or something like that in your garden, like just little things like that, I think would really add a lot of flexibility. And in some ways add more texture to the game without the artists at Mojang having to add any texture to the game, because all of a sudden you could take something like the smithing table and have it face whichever direction that you want. I mean, the top of that smithing table is cool. Right now it's a cool floor, but it could be a cool wall. It could be a cool ceiling. It could be the end of a battering ram. Like you could do all kinds of stuff with it if you could turn it on its side, but you can't.
Feels like that would be an easy fix, right? Like for me, you know, and I was a programmer in my previous life, so but I haven't really got into the code of Minecraft. But for me, I'm like, oh, wouldn't that just be a property of the block is rotational equals true that they could just change and like like be done with it? So that would be that's a really great idea, because like you said, there's textures in the game that already exist that we have a hard time accessing or utilizing because we can't control the rotation of the block. So all right, everybody let Mojang know like we want that, and hopefully it's something easy and they would do it. Who knows?
Well, folks, that's where we're going to wrap up this episode of the Spawn Chunks. You can find more information about the show and links to some of the things that we talked about at thespawnchunks.com. The music for the show was composed by Johnny. The Spawn Chunks is proud to be a listener-supported podcast. If you get value out of the show, why not consider putting some value back in? Visit patreon.com/thespawnchunks to join the community, where pledging at any level will get you an invite to the patron-only Discord chat, and you can have a chance to participate in things like the live show recording, as well as the monthly Minecraft audio hangout. We currently have 319 patrons, steady on from last week, so there's always room for more. Special thanks to our content engineer patrons, Gundar H. Striker, Hunter 555, Jumbo Sale, Mind Trip Media, Party Voyager, and Yitz. Sharing the podcast with your friends is the easiest way to support the show. You can find us at the Spawn Chunks on social media. New episodes are available on Mondays on all of the major podcasting platforms. And when Johnny returns from vacation, the video version will also be returning to YouTube. Right now, I'm just posting an audio version with the title card. You can email the show at spawnchunkmail@gmail.com. The RSS feed is linked at spawnchunks.com, and the patron-only RSS feed is on the Patreon page. That's where you can listen to the render distance, the extended version of the podcast. Impulse, thank you so much for filling in for Johnny while he's away. Where can listeners find you and the things that you're doing online?
A couple places, as we talked about. Obviously, my main YouTube channel is just impulseSV. It's also on Twitch at just impulseSV. I got lucky. I got that pretty much everywhere. So Twitter as well. And of course, we talked a little bit about the Imp and Skiz podcast. And so that's just Imp and Skiz podcast. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere there as well. And then all those streams that if you can't catch me live on Twitch, I do post those to a second channel that I have for all my VODs. It's impulseSV2 on YouTube. So you can catch all those live streams, those replays, if you're interested in that as well.
Speaking of plugs, you can find what Johnny is up to at youtube.com/pixelriffs. There are pre-recorded videos set to publish while he's away. And of course, he's at pixelriffs on social media. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything that I am up to online at joelduggan.com. That includes a link to the Citadel Cafe, my other podcast about sci-fi and fantasy entertainment. Coming up soon is going to be the chat about the season finale and the final review for Star Wars: The Acolyte, and that is available wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I'm Joel Duggan on social media and Joel Duggan on Twitch, where I stream Wednesday through Saturday at 1 p.m. Atlantic, working on Westel on the Citadel Minecraft server. And on Fridays, I build Lego live on stream. And this latest build is very, very cool. It's actually designed by Grandpa Crafter, a member of this community, and it is the Westel main gate from my Minecraft world that's been reimagined in Lego. Thanks for visiting the Spawn Chunks. The world outside is infinite, but you have to craft your impulses carefully.